George, you've got quite a need for a bunch of tractors for a variety of field work, and I see here you've got quite a few blues in the fleet.
Quite a few blues.
Give me a bit of a run through what you've got and what you do with them, and where you are with standard horsepower.
We've always been blue, rightly or wrongly. We've got a couple of little 5070s, but for the main field work, it's the couple you see behind us and a T6 175 4-cylinder. They do the brunt of the sort of forage work and the harvesting and things like that, really. So 180 horsepower, 175. Might be a bit of an overkill at sometimes, but the other way, it's a good bunch.
We all know that New Holland is a bit sort of vague when it comes to model numbers on the side of the bonnet. It never really matches up with horsepower.
Yeah.
But I understand you've done something a little bit different anyway. You're a firm believer in getting a little bit more out of what you've got, and that's where I guess Avon Tuning HD comes into this. So
absolutely,
tell us, what have you done, George?
So basically, we started the remapping game, if you like, when we purchased 3 of the T6 175s, which was a 4-cylinder replacement for the older T6 175, which was a 6-cylinder. They were a little bit flat in comparison to the previous 6-cylinder, so that was where the remapping started. So we did a bit of an experiment with mapping the 4-cylinders, and we're really impressed with how they went, basically. And when a couple got replaced for the 180s, which were a 6-cylinder, we were expecting not to need the remap because they're a 6-cylinder, bigger model number, but actually they still weren't comparable to the remapped 4-cylinder.
Wow, so quite a difference, really.
Quite a difference, yeah.
So you put some life back into the engines a little bit, really.
Absolutely, yeah. From a driver's perspective, they just seem much more responsive. It's not about screaming every last horsepower out of a machine that can't do it. It's just making it more driver-friendly. It seems to respond better with slightly bigger implements on the back.
Now, I noticed when I caught up with you while you were doing some power harrowing, the tractor runs really clean. There is no smoke. There's no raucous racket. I mean, you wouldn't know externally. You wouldn't have a clue what's been done to it. It's very, very subtle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, running a 5-meter power harrow on these would maybe seem a little bit extreme, but they manage it fine. And, you know, if they weren't, you wouldn't do it because you wouldn't want to abuse the machine. They do run very clean. They run, well, perfect, actually.
Yeah, it's subtle gains, isn't it?
Subtle
really?
gains.
Just taking the restrictions off them a little bit so that they'll breathe, they'll run freer, they'll just respond. A modest increase that just lets everything run perhaps the way it should have done from the factory.
Maybe,
Who knows?
Yeah, well, that is how we felt when we first purchased them, obviously without any mapping on them. It was just a bit unresponsive. And since the guys from Avon Tuning turned up, it's completely changed the way the machines run and drive.
You know, this is where you trust the guys at Avon. How much is too much? How far do you go? You want to be safe, you want to be sensible, you just want to take the shackles off a little bit. And
that's right. And I suppose they have each map tailored to each machine, so they know the capabilities and where you can push something to a safe limit. So that's why you've got to have a trust in your remapping guys.
You have. I mean, it's not like a generic plug-in box, is it?
It's
really,
not,
they're actually manipulating air and fuel maps properly.
That's right. Yeah, it's not just a plug in and play. It's everything's catered to that exact model, which is bound to be better long term.
Yeah. Takes out the hot spots, takes out the dull spots.
Exactly.
So everything should just run more efficiently without cooking itself to death. In your experience, the modest power increases that you've got haven't affected anything, have
No,
they?
they haven't. No, and I think Avon are very good in the way that I think if you went to them and said, look, I've got a T6 175, I want it to produce 270 horsepower, rather than say, oh, yeah, it's a no. Do you know what I mean? It's that they want reliability. And the few times we've had them out to do various bits, I mean, they're not just here for 10 minutes and gone. I mean, they want you to drive it afterwards, they want feedback, you know, the dyno's on for quite a while, befores and afters, so pre-map, post-map, etc, etc.
So there's lots of comparisons there to get it just right.
Yeah, lots of comparisons,
George, the 5-meter power harrow is quite a chunk on what is effectively a 160, 170 horsepower tractor.
It is.
So I guess your output is up with that considerably, is it or not?
It is. Yeah. I mean, it massively is, So you're sort of getting a much higher output out of, without having to invest in a massive tractor specifically for basically one job.
Good flexibility there, really.
It's nice to have two. I mean, everything fits between one machine to another. So in the summer, when you've got a few other things going on, it's nice to be able to just have a machine hooked up and jump in and go. So that's why we tend to try and keep everything quite similar, even to the size of the back ends and everything. It just means everything fits between 3 machines, but particularly the 2 machines.
Have you noticed any benefit with fuel? Are you burning more, burning less, or is it about the same?
I personally think if you're running the tractor at maximum capacity, you need more fuel to get more power. But on the flip side of that, if you're, say, running a plough, for example, which you don't need to be running hard, you can actually drop your engine RPM down, be a gear higher, that's where you notice the fuel savings. So yes, if someone say, does the remapping save you fuel over the long run? Yes, I genuinely think it does.
The touchy bit about warranty,
okay.
I guess, you know, this is one of those areas that's frowned upon in the market for whatever reason, I don't know, because I often believe manufacturers stick another badge on the same tractor.
Yep.
It's the same, mostly the same giblets inside. Somebody's going to take me to task on that, I know, but ultimately getting a little bit extra shouldn't really be a problem. But I guess you've had your stuff mapped from new, fresh out the box.
Yeah.
Has there been any comebacks on any of that, or any dark clouds over your head?
No, and we're very fortunate. I mean, touch wood, the tractors haven't given any major faults that's related to a question that goes back to warranty and mapping. I think dealerships are aware that a massive percentage of farmers, contractors, whatever, do map their tractors. I think as long as it's done with a decent company, a well-respected company like Avon, I can't really see a problem.